everyone and welcome to BrickCats. My channel is for anyone who enjoys custom LEGO creations, likes saving money, and or those looking to get into custom building. If you're a fan of my channel or are interested in supporting what I do, please consider liking this review, subscribing, or leaving a comment. Each like, subscription, and comment helps others find my channel, and I greatly appreciate it. Today I am reviewing this T-65 X-Wing Starfighter by designer Edge of Bricks. Without any substitutions, in late March 2024, Bricklink gave me just 3 stores and $99 without shipping and tax, or about $124 with shipping and tax. In my reviews, I offer my opinions on aesthetics and model features, parts issues you might want to look out for, the build experience, the model's integrity, and I close out with my overall impression and pricing information in the conclusion. If you're watching this review, I assume you bought the instructions or are interested in buying them. I also assume a basic level of familiarity with Bricklink's ordering system and LEGO nomenclature. I only use genuine LEGO bricks and I always purchase the instructions. Finally, I create these reviews for my own personal enjoyment and in the hopes that my advice will make your experience more enjoyable and or less expensive. Edge of Bricks' X-Wing measures about 13.5 inches long, 12.5 inches wide, and on the included display stand maxes out at about 6.5 inches off the surface of my table. Without the display stand, the X-Wing is just over 3 inches tall on the included retractable landing gear. This places the model comfortably in the minifigure scale range. As you can see, it's a very smooth model overall without many studs showing, and those that are visible don't take away from the model's overall appearance. Starting at the nose, this subassembly is very well done and connects to the main body with one of the newer Technic half pins with friction ridges. I like how there's some relief from the front fuselage and overall the shaping is just very good. There is one change I do recommend in the nose, and that is to put a 1x2 plate under this slope here. You can kind of see from the underside that the nose cone, it's like getting wider and then it gets narrower again to line up with the front fuselage right here. And I actually think that bumping this out will create more relief from the front fuselage and it will look a little better. So let's see. So there you go. So it's just past the white section here. It lines up better with this curved slope right here. And you get more of the sense that this is in relief right here. So I think that looks better. It doesn't add a whole lot of cost, if any. 1x2 plates are like 3 cents on Bricklink or something. So that's a pretty easy change, and I just think it looks a little bit better there. Color detailing on the front fuselage to represent continuation of the nose cone could probably be a little different. For example, you could split up this hinge plate into a light bluish gray and a white section, but this is easy to implement if you want to do it yourself. The sides of the front fuselage come together very nicely using hinge plates at either end. There's no asymmetry specified in the instructions, but you can easily change this to your taste by simply changing the positions of the dark and the white panels. On the underside of the front fuselage, there's similarly no color variation specified nor representation of the proton torpedo tubes. This is a little unfortunate because it's an important detail in the X-Wing, but adding a few darker slopes right about here would solve that problem, and I substituted in these off-color slopes as well. The top of the front fuselage is pretty standard. I like the official sticker piece from set 75301. There are enough studs here that you could use different color tiles as well. The cockpit uses the 21849 windscreen from set 75301, and the cockpit holds a minifigure very nicely with a studded seat. The cockpit has some instrumentation as well as a control stick. The astromech slot is in the proper place behind the cockpit. I think this white 1x4 tile shouldn't be here, and the greebling strip should continue from the astromech uninterrupted. This is an easy change to make as well. The greebling strip hides the S-foil actuation button, this round piece right here. You press down on it and the S-foils open. To close the S-foils, you do have to do that by closing the wings manually. There's no, the button does not work in reverse. The button also doesn't have a positive stop, and as a result it can feel a little bit soft to me. And to get the S-foils to open fully, you have to press kind of hard. So I'll do that again. So this is kind of just a normal amount of pressure, but then to get it open just a little bit more, you can press a little bit harder. Regardless, I really like the implementation and how well it is hidden. You get a lot of wing movement for not a lot of button movement, so the button doesn't look out of place in either position either. The top and the bottom engine constructions are different to accommodate the landing skids in the lower engines. The top engines use the hemisphere pieces, while the bottom engines are curved slopes on hinges to hide the landing skids. Like so. The instructions call for cutting lengths of 2L hose for the T-shape on the engine intakes, but I didn't like that and I used the nozzle piece instead. The rear thrusters are fairly standard constructions with some dark pink cones representing engine glow in the back. These are all specified the same in the instructions, so again I added some color highlighting. I've used more of the stickers from set 75301 on the wings, which are fairly standard plate, wedge, and tile construction. The stickers really help make the wing look more interesting, as without them there's a lot of white space. I also tried an alternative design of my own for the wings, which I did on the underside to show you. You might have seen it a little bit earlier. I used some dark red tiles to get this stripe here, and since the parts list calls for the sticker sheet for 75301 anyway, I cut some triangular pieces out of the white border of the sticker sheet and stuck them on the corners of these tiles here to get that angling effect. And since I recently got the Yavin 4 set with Red Leader, I styled this as Red Leader's X-Wing with the single stripe here, even though the number of stripes doesn't necessarily correspond to the pilot's call sign in canon. Anyway, let me know if you prefer the stickers or the brick-built wings supplemented with the stickers there. And personally, I was quite pleased with this. Unfortunately, this sticker here spans 2 tiles, which isn't ideal, and I didn't measure quite right. I measured 3L for both of these, and this one should have been 4L, and this one should have been 3L but a little shallower, just so there wasn't that kind of like ugly flat section there where it should be just one smooth stripe, but oh well, maybe next time, or maybe I'll redo it, but probably not because I'm lazy. The rest of the underside is pretty nondescript, with the anti-studs marking where you attach the fighter to the stand right about here. The cannons are 1 stud width and use a combination of Technic and candlestick pieces before terminating in the flash suppressor. These have grown on me since I first built them. I think I still prefer the 6L bar, but these don't look bad by any means. And by the way, if you thought helmet holes on clone helmets was LEGO's biggest problem, how about lack of a dedicated piece for the X-Wing flash suppressor? I mean, come on. We're still forced to use this, or I do have some minifigure neck armor pieces I'm going to try out, but it's really time for that to change. The rear section of the X-Wing has good shaping and some additional greebling. The display stand uses a very simple connection. These are bracket pieces that stud onto the underside of the fighter. This connection is secure, but also lets you put the model on and take it off very easily without worrying that parts are going to come off with it. The stand holds the fighter at a slight upward angle and can also hold the fighter on its side. And I really appreciate the attention to detail with the shaping around here. This does add a little bit of extra cost, but in my opinion it's totally worth it. The stand looks very good, and really cool side building with these new rounded corner pieces here. So putting the fighter on is very easy. And similarly, you can just lift it off like this, and it comes off without any issues. And you could also hold the fighter on its side like this. All in all, Edgebrix's new T-65 X-Wing is an excellent looking model. It faithfully recreates the shape of the cannon models, has a well-integrated S-foil mechanism, and looks incredible on the included stand. The model is very easy to customize to your taste and takes advantage of the inexpensive 75301 sticker sheet to add some extra visual appeal. Edgebrix's T-65 requires 237 elements and 986 pieces. The designer has done a really good job indicating parts that are hidden and can thus be any color by coloring them in red in the parts list. However, the Technic pin 1/2 with friction ridges is also specified in red, but should not be changed to any color in your parts list. In general, the parts list is very efficient, and most of the savings to be had will not come from utilizing Pick-a-Brick this time. Pick-a-Brick efficiency tends to drop off as the model size decreases. The parts list calls for 3 hose 8Ls part 75C08 in light bluish gray. These are used to form the T-shape of the engine intakes and to make the front landing skid connection. The only place I found a small piece of hose necessary was for that front landing skid, so I think you can decrease the hose count to 1 and make it any color since that particular piece is hidden. You don't need a very long length of hose either, so if you already have one lying around, you probably have enough already, but the 8L hose in light bluish gray is very common anyway. The replacement for the 2L sections of hose I used here are the minifigure utensil hose nozzle elaborate, part 60849 in light bluish gray. These are very inexpensive and widely available. The cockpit printed slopes, part 54200 PB106, do look good, but tend to add a store in my experience, and they tend to be a little bit expensive, maybe around 50 to 60 cents. You could consider replacing these by incrementing the number of plain 1x1 cheese slopes in light bluish gray, part 54200 from 4 to 6. For pricing purposes, I did substitute these out. The 4 printed rotor blade tiles, part 15535 PB01, are located inside the engine intakes. In my opinion, these are kind of difficult to see and thus can be swapped with plain tiles. I would change the quantity of part 15535 in light bluish gray from 5 to 9. The 2 brick round 1x1 by 2/3 half circle extended with side stud, part 3386 in black, are hidden and can be any color. This is a newer element and black is the most common, but depending on the bricklink seller, other colors might be less expensive and or more available. The specified windscreen is the newest version from set 75301 in light bluish gray, part 21849 PB05. Any of the standard X-Wing cockpit pieces, as inaccurate as they are, will work just fine here, but they all tend to be more expensive. I think the E-Wing canopy from the E-Wing vs Shin-Hati Starfighter would also look very good. Since this model isn't very large and there aren't many expensive elements to begin with, I don't recommend buying a smaller subset of elements from Pick-a-Brick unless you can meet the thresholds for free shipping and handling. The following elements are particularly expensive on Bricklink that you could consider buying from Pick-a-Brick if you're placing a larger order. Finally, I used the Brick Hunter extension to check the entire parts list against the Pick-a-Brick inventory. Check out my video on Brick Hunter if you haven't already or don't know how to use it. You'll see my pricing comparisons in the conclusion. Edgerbricks' X-Wing instructions contain 268 steps for the ship and the stand. Each part of subassembly added in each step is highlighted in red against a white background. This works very well and it's easy to tell which pieces are being added. Pacing is okay. Occasionally I felt like steps could use fewer pieces, but this is not a major concern. Most pages have 2 or 3 steps on them, which makes good use of the space on your screen. The build took me about 3.5 hours start to finish with light pre-sorting ahead of time. Most of the time when I felt a step could use fewer pieces, the viewing angle doesn't show everything being added in that step as clearly as normal. There are a lot of examples of this, but I didn't find any steps in which the viewing angle completely obscures the location of an element. Overall, the instructions are very clear. There are only 2 areas where I think the instructions could improve in a significant way. The first has to do with those hoses. The instructions mention cutting them at the proper step, but they don't tell you the correct length. If you buy the hose and are looking to cut the 2-stud hoses for the engines, each one needs to be 16mm long. And for the front landing skid, this is a very short section. Between 6 and 8mm should be sufficient. The second is a sticker guide. The instructions reference the stickers from 75301 at the end, but to make this model maximally accessible, some real-life photos of sticker placement would be helpful. Here are the stickers I use and their corresponding number on the sticker sheet. Second is a sticker guide. The instructions reference the stickers from set 75301 at the beginning, but to make this model maximally accessible, some real-life photos of sticker placement would be helpful. Here are the stickers I use and their corresponding number on the sticker sheet. Aside from the places where you need to cut hoses, this model is suitable for builders of most ages and abilities. Younger builders should seek assistance from an adult cutting the hoses, or substitute the nozzle pieces for the engines to minimize the need to cut. Edgerbricks' X-Wing is very sturdy and suitable for most levels of play. Most of the model is very solid, and I don't have any concerns about this model's overall durability. Picking it up and swishing goes something like this. And your fingers are gripping the fighter from the rear right here. Unfortunately, this is also one of the most likely spots for a piece to fall off. These tiles on the underside and on either side have come off a couple of times, especially on the underside, just because that's where your fingers are. So if you press down too hard, then this can come off like that. Swishing is very easy though, and this model will stand up to a lot. The wings can close on you, since they're not locked or anything like that, but that's only going to happen with really strong movements. There's basically no rattling or shaking of anything in this model, and this is a testament to how well it's designed. So right now, I am swishing this pretty hard, and it's very solid. I will point out that the lower engine thruster is connected a little bit differently than the upper engines, so these do come off quite easily. Especially if you've got your hand back here and you tend to bump one, but these are also really easy to put back on. And the difference is the upper engines have a stud that connects to this anti-stud or this technical right here, and the bottom engine just doesn't because it has the landing gear in there. And my only minor criticism about this model in terms of handling and playability is that it's really difficult, for me at least, to actuate the S-foils while holding it with one hand. My hands are not big enough to reach this S-foil button enough to actuate them, so it's a two-handed thing for me. Maybe if you've got larger hands than I do, this won't be a problem. I mentioned the landing skids earlier, and these are fairly stable. The model will stand on them just fine. Moderate bumps might cause them to collapse, but luckily this should not result in any major damage to the fighter itself. And funnily enough, the main issue I've run into with the landing skids is this front skid here, and that's because it can rotate to either side fairly easily. So it's flat now, and if I push this a little bit like that, you can see that it kind of shifts that way. And that's because the connection for this particular skid, as I knock off the side panel there, is on a bar connection, which can rotate to either side there. But other than that, the landing gear is pretty stable and very well implemented. As you can kind of see here, the tips of the cannons can come loose. This is only a hollow stud connection, but these are easy to get back in place. And we talked about it a little bit earlier, but the model is very stable on the display stand, and the display stand in turn is very stable on my table here. This is an excellent addition to my X-Wing squadron, and a very good model if you're considering a custom X-Wing. It swishes well and is almost as durable as an official playset. It's accurate to the source material with some very well done detailing, and it's accessible to a wide range of builders. On top of all of that, it's very cost effective for a custom model as well. In terms of the three major factors I tend to judge models on, that's accuracy, stability, and price, this one excels at all three. Like I said in the introduction, without any substitutions in late March 2024, Bricklink gave me 3 stores and $99 without shipping and tax, or about $124 with shipping and tax. With my substitutions, I got 3 stores and $85 without shipping and tax, or about $109 with shipping and tax. And finally, using Pick-a-Brick using the Brick Hunter extension, my Pick-a-Brick total was $111, including tax but no shipping and handling because I met the minimums. I did have to pad the standard section of my Pick-a-Brick order by $3 or so to avoid the $7 handling fee. The remaining 4 elements from Bricklink I was able to get from 1 store and $3 without shipping and tax, or about $9 with shipping and tax, for a total of $120. Smaller models tend to benefit less from using Pick-a-Brick, so I definitely think there are some opportunities to bring the cost down with a combination of Pick-a-Brick and Bricklink. I tend to order a lot of pieces new from Pick-a-Brick, especially for white builds, just so I don't have to worry about sun-damaged pieces. $109 from Bricklink only is pretty good. I would be pretty surprised if you could get this much lower than about $100 or $105. Instructions for Edge of Bricks' T-65 cost €10 or just about $11 at the current exchange rate. There will be a link to the designer's riggable page in the description. Thanks as always for watching my review of Edge of Bricks' T-65 X-Wing. If you built this model, you have something to share that I left out, or have a question about something I didn't cover, please leave your thoughts below in the comments. Remember to leave this video a like, subscribe to the channel, or follow me on Instagram if you haven't already, and I hope to see you back next time.